browsing through a class catalog of a big show or looking at different online classes, there are so many different types of classes and teaching styles that I thought I'd take a second to tell you what you can expect from a Patty Lyons class. Now, like I said, there's a lot of different types of classes. You might see a class with your favorite designer teaching you the inside secrets of a certain design. See a class that is kind of a more knit-along style, where you want to learn a certain technique like cables or lace or double knitting. And the teacher has created a series of swatches that will help move you through that technique. You might see a class that's a more relaxed style. Maybe it's only covering one or two really specific things. Then there are the deep dives into techniques, and those are the classes that I teach. Now, my classes are jam-packed because I never want any knitter to walk away saying, "Really? That's it? 3 hours, that's all I learned?" Every teacher remembers their favorite quotes from students, and I remember 3 of my favorite emails are really a good representation of my classes. I got one email once after Vogue Knitting Live that said, "You were a fire hose of information," and I mean that in the best way, which kind of made me laugh. I got another email that said, "After your class, I felt like my head was exploding and I needed a nap, but it was the favorite class that I took the whole show," which I loved. And somebody else said to me in class, another student said, "You just Mr. Miyagi'd me," which I know is showing my age, but what are you going to do? Now, I always say that the length of class is the right amount of time for me to teach and you to learn. But for a thinking class like gauge or sweater mapping or design, something with math, there, I said it, math, I'm not scared, that's not the same as the amount of time it takes for you to truly digest it and understand. Now, the length of time for a hands-on knitting class is the right amount of time for me to teach and you to learn, but not necessarily the same amount of time as for you to practice and you to master. I don't want to spend class time with you just practicing the same thing over and over again. I want to put as much teaching as I can into that class. So, how can I be sure that the students have everything they need to succeed? 3 important points. One involves the student, which is taking the homework and skill prerequisites seriously. It's there to help you. So if a class says should be familiar with magic loop and be able to work it without supervision, that means that's not really going to be taught in class. We're going to kick it up to do the higher skills. So take those skill prerequisites seriously. Being familiar with magic loop doesn't mean like, oh yeah, I've heard of that. But take your time practicing it before the show. I promise you, you'll be happy. 2 is my pedagogy, which is the fancy schmancy way of saying teaching philosophy, which is that I teach the why, not just the how. So for me, as a knitter, I was never able to just watch and match. Or rather, and tell me if this sounds familiar, I was able to watch a teacher demo something and match it in the room. But then every time I did that technique again, particularly if I wasn't going to do it for like 6 months, I'd have to look it up. Sound familiar? So the way I teach is I want you to understand the why, because I always say, well, I'm not coming home with you. So we really get into stitch anatomy. We really get into universal whys. I want the knitter to leave the classroom really feeling empowered, not that they spent 3 hours knitting something that once the teacher isn't there, they won't be able to knit that again. And 3, and finally, or alternately C, a lot of my classes come with a lot of extras that extend the learning outside the classroom. So many classes have a page on my website. It's locked and you get a code, and there might be extra video tutorials, photo tutorials, downloads of swatches to practice, fill in the blanks, all sorts of things, because basically I want to cram a 6-hour class in 3 hours. And then I also have a free education platform called education.pattylyons.com. Yes, there's classes on there, but it's free to join. You don't have to take a class. And there's a community group where you can post questions, you can post pictures. So basically, I want to keep that student teacher relationship going. So, if you're the kind of student that loves to know the why, if you're ready to take a deep dive into your knitting and you really want to learn a lot and have some fun, I hope to see you in class.